Hello and welcome to Eden Live, where I am reading all of Eden by FREI live on Facebook and on YouTube with the recorded clips, then making available to Instagram, IGTV. We're on a little bit earlier in terms of time of day than usual and a little bit later in terms of day of the week than usual, but be that as it may, it doesn't really matter because I think most of you find these clips not actually when they go out live, but when you find them, when you happen across them, and that is just fine the way it is. It gives me a little bit of leeway to handle the various vagaries of everyday living in London. We are in the 10th volume of the Eden Miniature series, the Bournemouth and Boscombe Trilogy. And here we are in the second part of the trilogy. The second part is called Revival. And this is the fourth installment. And it goes like this. I imagine the woman sitting across a small plastic table from me, wearing clothes. I confess I have done the reverse thing before. Of course, who hasn't? Or hasn't anyone ever? I don't even know. It's not something I talk about with my friends. It's not something I talk about to my friends. Have you ever sat on a tube train or on a bench in the park or in a cafe or stood in a pub and imagined the people there naked? All of them? And taken the thought further into their world and wondered, how do they make love? Do they make love, or do they have untrammeled, wild, passionate sex? Why do we have to say have sex? Why, in a language that verbs like no other, have we not adopted to sex as a verb, as in, how do they sex? And with whom? What do they look like and sound like and feel like during their sexing and in the shower afterwards? What will they have for breakfast, if anything? Who or what do they see when they cast a glance in the mirror, naked? Is it normal to ask yourself these questions? Or is it weird? What isn't weird? What is? Now, I'm sitting opposite a middle-aged woman who has a certain amount of volume to her body. Her breasts sag a little, her tummy folds over the patch of pubic hair that adorns her vagina, her arms wobble as she gestures, which she does a fair bit. And I wonder, what does she wear normally? She has spread towels over a half-dozen plastic chairs on which we all sit. My small backpack leans against mine, and part of me feels tempted still to just reach down now and take out the shorts and the shirt and put them back on. Part of me, though, feels relaxed, quite remarkably so. Her girlfriend, the woman, is pouring tea from a pot into half-size colourful mugs, which have on them motifs of beach life in England. They're handcrafted and pleasant, and add to the general feeling of familiarity. There is nothing remiss with this world as I see it, it seems, and I wonder, why do we call our partners, if we have them, which at this time I don't, boyfriend and girlfriend, when they are clearly way into their 40s or 50s, and what then is a transgendered friend? Surely not my trans friend. The girlfriend, who is certainly nearing her mid-40s, if not in fact pushing 50, and of a similar build to her partner, lover, other half, technically wife, though they be not married, even though now, of course, they could if they wanted to, while pouring tea into the mini mugs that are more sturdy and dainty, but lovable all the same, a bit like the couple themselves, recounts the story of their progeny, the mugs, and how they, the couple, got them from a friend of theirs who in turn had made them herself, especially for their beach hut here, outside which we are sitting, as a present. But my mind isn't on tea or on mugs or even on the extraordinarily large buttock that advances on me alarmingly as she bends down to pour the sixth mug. Instead, my mind briefly wanders into or only tangentially related territory, and I wonder, can we not just call this, ourselves, the rainbow community? We've adopted the flag, we enjoy the concept, it served us well, it does the job, and it's friendly. LGBTQQIAAP sounds, frankly, ridiculous. It may be inclusive, but as a word it's unpronounceable, and as an acronym preposterous. And though it lists everyone anyone can currently think of, it's bound to be incomplete. There is certain to be someone out there somewhere who does not feel their gender or sexual identity adequately represented by either lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, transsexual, queer, questioning, intersex, asexual, ally, or pansexual. Rainbow, let's face it, does the trick. As in, Brighton and Hove is a haven for the rainbow community. There is no real reason why Bournemouth and Boscombe shouldn't be too. I have a feeling the idea can hardly be new, and I surmise it has probably been tried, or at least aired before, and for some reason or other rejected or dismissed by at least some. But my mind goes, we need better than a string of letters that looks like an unsolved Enigma code and has no sound. Rainbow is fine, seriously. It may have hippie connotations, and the peace movement of the 1990s may have a claim on it too, but so what? It's embracing, it's non-ethnicity specific, it's even pretty, it's natural. Rainbows happen all over the world, all the time, like living, like loving, like questioning, querying, and doubting, like being naked under the sun, for whatever reason, to whatever end. We could call ourselves the Turing community with a reference to the unsolved enigma that is being LGBTQIAAP, and to honour a human who has done more for humanity than most others and suffered terrible injustice as a reward. I resolved to try it out on my new friends here at the next opportunity and say something like, the Turing community has really made great strides this century, but the struggle is by no means over, upon which they're bound to ask, what's the Turing community? To which I will reply, us, the rainbow community, and there'll no doubt be a long discussion about what we should call ourselves and whether we can even think of ourselves in any way as a community. And that would be fun, or at least diverting, or conversationally stimulating. Who knows? Before I can do so, we are joined by another friendly couple who are participating in the Bournemouth and Boscombe nude beach stroll together with their little dog. The dog is panting a bit in the heat now, so he gets a bowl of water as a priority. Everybody gets up. That is my big burly new friend, who's effectively adopted me as a nude beach stroll newbie, his somewhat demure friend, who has not been saying much since I tagged along with them, and their sunny woman friend, whose welcome it was that had convinced me and won me over so quickly. The British ritual of kissing friends and close enough friends of friends, even if you have never met them before, on the cheek, once or twice, you can never be entirely sure which, here takes on an additional layer of slightly awkward, because parts of people's bodies that are usually unnoticeable enough, wrapped in some clothing, now dangle and wriggle, and you just have to get used to the odd nipple or tip of a cock brushing against you and make nothing of it, as do these kind folk, whom to be with I feel happier and more comfortable about all the time. There is now a veritable plethora of people represented around this little impromptu tea party, and instead of toying with gender nomenclature, I imagine them going about their ordinary business during the day naked. That's just as entertaining, I quickly realised, as imagining them clothed. The host couple, it transpires, are both social workers of some sort, though one, it appears, in the statutory, the other in the voluntary sector. The mixed couple who have just arrived are semi-retired, it seems, but I can't quite disentangle their various community involvements and interests from their part-time professional activities, which lie broadly in the region of consultation. My burly new friend is a carpenter, and his friend, who turns out to be his partner, the one who strikes me as a little suspicious or possibly simply wary of me, a lawyer. Their woman friend works for a big company on the outskirts of town, in personnel. I imagine being employed by her big company on the outskirts of town and needing to see her about my... I I imagine being employed by her big company on the outskirts of town and needing to see her about my annual leave or my P45 and wandering through a large open plan office full of naked people sitting at a computer, doing things that to me are incomprehensible in the way, say, cricket is, but not quite as fascinating or soothing, and knocking on Jane's door and hearing her friendly, warm, sunny voice call, "Come in," and finding her sitting there at her own desk with her big broad smile and her very red lips and her quite strawberry hair and her freckled nose and her large nippled breasts and her necklace that has a Buddhist, I reckon, symbol on it, or maybe it's just generally spiritual, and her interesting silver green shade coloured nails. And I imagine her offering me a seat. There are many things inherently impractical indeed about being naked. You don't want to, for example, sit down in a leather chair where you know someone else has just sat, or for maybe half an hour or longer, talking to their human resources manager about a recurring health issue. What exactly is the issue, you wonder, and is it contagious? Or the carpenter. Now, in some respects, that makes a little more sense. Making furniture is proper physical exertion, and why should he not do so free from textiles, but perhaps for reasons of personal safety, no more than topless. I like his chest pause as it bounces when he laughs at a joke I wasn't quite listening to and therefore didn't quite get. And I like his magnificent belly, which doesn't seem fat so much as voluptuous. He is wholly and wholesomely attractive, though not in a classical or traditional or obvious way. His personality beams and bestows on people around him reassurance. I like that. His living partner of many years, it transpires, is the exact opposite, dry and wry and analytical. They obviously complement each other, and although he, the boyfriend, yes, you see, it really doesn't work for him, boyfriend, hasn't warmed to me yet, I sense his underlying suspicion, if that's what it is, slowly seeding. It may be the tea, maybe the realization that I'm not going to be a threat to him or his relationship ever, or perhaps it's the cookies. I wonder, could it possibly have happened that we've been served hash cookies without being told, but then dismissed that idea as absurd? I would have fallen asleep by now because my tolerance of dope is practically zero. I would have fallen asleep by now because my tolerance of dope is practically zero. That's how it needs to be read. I suddenly long for a Prosecco and wonder, is that an option, when I'm pulled out of my disjointed but pleasurable reverie in the nude by hearing my name spoken, loud and a little provocative. "And what is it you do, Sebastian?" Claire asks me with a look of frank expectation. She's the girlfriend of the host couple and the one, I believe, whose social work is more statutory. I'm momentarily startled, and before I can prevent myself from thinking the thought, I wonder, but for a fraction of a second, what happens when nudists get involuntary erections? But I gather my senses and I reply, I'm a writer. And that was a little bit choppy reading of the fourth installment of the second part of the Bournemouth Boscombe Trilogy, which is the 10th volume of the Eden by FREI miniatures series, of the Eden miniature series, which is the paperback and ebook published version of Eden by FREI, which you can also still find online, just exactly as it is. With all the text, it is still freely, will for a little while yet at least, be available online as a blog. How long for, we don't know yet. It depends a little bit, but certainly until the end of these readings. And then the idea certainly also is at some point to publish everything in one book. And who knows, maybe then we'll take down the blog, but maybe not. In any case, the blog is still there. This series continues for a little while longer. I'm hoping we'll get it all in this year, 2021. We'll probably just leap into and over and across Christmas, but if things continue going at least more or less according to plan, we should be able to reach the final reading by the end of the year. So not long to go, and not long to go in this. We're now really a little bit over halfway through. I hope you'll join me again next time. Next time will be tomorrow, in fact. I normally do this on Monday and Wednesday. And if things go well, then tomorrow should be the next installment. So until then, or whenever you find the next installment, take good care, love and take love, and see you very soon. Bye bye.